Once again, welcome back. You are in the room for track 3. So this is the room where we will focus on small and developing countries. So that is the focus of this discussion. Therefore, the challenges and opportunities which are specific to the small and developing countries. I'll just make a quick introduction. My name is Stephanie Psaila, and I will be the moderator here. And I have the pleasure to introduce our special guest, Ms. Maricela Muñoz, Minister Counsellor at the Permanent Mission of Costa Rica to the UN in Geneva, Ms. Asha DeSuza, Second Secretary from the Permanent Mission of St. Kitts and Nevis to the UN in New York. So Asha, it must be quite early in the day for you. And Mr. Moctar Yedaly, who's the head of the Information Society Division at the African Union Commission. And Moctar, I know he is with us for sure here because we heard him speak in the plenary just a few minutes ago. So can I ask Maricela, Asha, and Moctar to very quickly just say hello and whether we can do a very quick sound check.
Hello, Stephanie, and thank you so much for your kind introduction. I hear you just fine. I hope you hear me well as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Maricela. Asha?
Hi, Stephanie. Good greetings. I think everything is fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes, madam.
Okay, excellent. Perfect.
And Moctar, is Moctar with us? He was. Maybe he'll be joining us in just a few minutes. And it is also my pleasure to introduce my colleagues Mina and Giovanna, who will assist us. So Mina will be the chat moderator here, and Giovanna will be our tech and visual assistant for this track. To our colleagues here joining us for this discussion, I would like to invite you to switch on your videos and also to participate by switching on your microphone and talking to us. Because the aim of this discussion is to have a multi-way conversation about the challenges and the opportunities which small and developing countries are facing due to the COVID-19 situation and its impact on multilateral diplomacy. So I'll now invite our first speaker just to give a quick overview of how this discussion will pan out. We will have 15 minutes discussion with each speaker, with a warm invitation for the other speakers to join us even during the other speakers' intervention. We have a coffee break in 30 minutes. So 2 interventions, a coffee break, and the next 2 interventions, and then we go back to plenary. So it is my pleasure to invite Ms. Muñoz, Maricela, if I can call you by your first name, to tell us about her experience in this very, very strange time. So Maricela, thank you once again for joining us. You represent Costa Rica in Geneva, and Geneva, as we all know, is one of the main diplomatic hubs. Our study, which we are launching today, reveals that diplomats, and here I am quoting the study, diplomats of small and developing countries, especially those posted in multilateral hubs, are likely to face an additional crisis next year. So it's good to look at the challenges that we're facing today, but also based on those challenges, what we foresee as the challenges that we'll be facing in the coming time. So can you tell us a bit more what the challenges are at the moment, what the challenges are likely to be even post-COVID, and how you believe they can be overcome? Over to you, Maricela.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and good afternoon and good morning, colleagues. It's a pleasure to be joining you today for this very interesting and timely discussion. I really appreciate the opportunity to be in part of this reflection on diplomatic practice. And I am also thankful for the opportunity to share with you all some perspectives from a small delegation from the Global South, which is in this case, Costa Rica. As Stephanie was mentioning, I am based out of the permanent mission of Geneva, of Costa Rica. And I hope that this will be a very active interaction. I really look forward to hearing also your comments and perspectives on this issue. And also thank you, Katharina, although she's not here, and the DipLoc team for this very thought-provoking report. So I think that digital diplomacy is here to stay, even when the pandemic resides, and we hope that happens very soon. And given the financial situation of the United Nations, diplomats will question, for instance, whether or not an in-person meeting or session is completely necessary. So I think that this is one of the issues that we have been dealing with lately as we approach either postponing meetings or canceling them altogether because of the pandemic. I also think that the diplomatic community will also support and push for efforts to provide the UN with better hardware and software, technicians and expertise to develop and be able to hold virtual and hybrid meetings. I think that Katharina was mentioning before that one of the conclusions of the report is the need for an open source platform for the United Nations. And I want to underscore this point because I also concur with this appreciation, with this conclusion. I think that we need a system that meets the needs and demands of diplomats, and one that is secure and enable us to negotiate, to vote in a space that is appropriate for our practice. And I wanted to also highlight this point. Now, in terms of smaller delegations and representatives from the Global South, there are special considerations and realities that we have been tackling with recently and even since the pandemic broke. For instance, as Ambassador Laufer from Switzerland was mentioning, the digital divide, and also our colleague from the Internet Society from the African Union was highlighting this important issue. I think that access to stable and affordable internet connectivity and equipment, electricity, is very important also for my region. And I think that sometimes maybe colleagues that are in a better position do not understand these realities. Sometimes when, for instance, you provide for a platform, for instance, Interprovide, for certain official meetings, group of governmental experts or other kind of meetings, you take as a given that if you provide Interprovide, everybody is able to connect. And this is not necessarily the case, right? We need, as I said, stable electricity and connectivity. And also, sometimes we operate in the Central European time zone, not considering that other countries are not part of this time zone. I was just participating a few weeks ago as a group of governmental experts, and it was 2:00 in the morning in Costa Rica, 2 a.m. So my experts could not join me for this very important GGE. And I saw that my colleagues from the Central Europe zone were, very blessed, and they had their colleagues with them all the time. So this is a reality for countries like mine. In the current context, we cannot necessarily be able to have open, meaningful, and inclusive participation because of all these constraints, diminish human resources, both here in Geneva, in other multilateral hubs, and in capital. Also, present a big challenge for us. Capitals have slower response mode. That means that we are more empowered sometimes. We need to react and respond on the spot to demands and to negotiation processes. But at the same time, we may be missing the important expertise advice from our colleagues back in Capital that are focused on very specific issues. So I think that Katharina was also mentioning that there may be a next crisis for diplomats in terms of budget cuts that happens particularly to developing countries. And that may mean that we have to focus our limited resources to address priorities. And I think that this is part of the ongoing reflection. How can we be able to, respond to all the demands, all the meetings, all the negotiations with limited resources and financial, cuts in this context. We also must consider advocating for inclusivity that not also addresses delegations from the Global South, but also civil society representative and other actors. I think that this is very important. Before, when we had face-to-face meetings, we were able to discuss issues not only in the plenary, as others have mentioned, but also in the corridors or over coffee, not only with colleagues, but also with delegates from civil society organizations that always keep us on track and share with us realities from the field. This is missing. I've seen that this is some of the factors in the whole diplomatic business equation that are being tempered with in terms of our transition into a hybrid or only digital mode. And finally, I wanted to say that for us, multilateralism and effective international cooperation, including digital cooperation, is fundamental. And we need to continue these reflections, these exchanges, and transform whatever ideas and recommendations arise from these debates into pragmatic actions. So I hope that this may contribute to our discussion, and I look forward to hearing from colleagues and participants this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maricela, for those interesting insights. And one of the reasons why we're sharing these insights in a dedicated session is to see also whether these challenges and even the opportunities, whether they're shared whether they're shared by other countries, in particular the small and developing countries. So Asha and Moctar may also reflect on the challenges that you have mentioned. All right, at this stage, I'll invite the participants in the room to feel free to either turn on video, or even if you prefer, just turn on the mic, or even still just ask the comments and post the questions in the chat. So there are multiple ways of interacting with us. I do encourage you to do that, because this is one of the golden opportunities to discuss such a topical issue with the practitioners on the ground who are going through these challenges and finding innovative ways of overcoming them. Until we get questions, Maricela, I do have a few questions myself that I'd like to ask you, and I hope I'm echoing maybe the thoughts of our participants in the room. You mentioned the need for an open source platform. If you had to be if you had a wish list for your platform based on the needs that you have encountered and based on your own needs from the experiences of online platforms, what would be the top, let's say, 3 items you would suggest that would be incorporated in the open source platform?
Thank you, Stephanie. I think this is a great question. Well, if I may, I think that first of all, the platform needs to be open source. Costa Rica has always advocated for open internet and open access, inclusivity and meaningful participation from all. But most importantly, in the context of openness, also security, they need to go hand in hand. So if we think about, sometimes confidential meetings or segments in which you need to make sure that the right representatives are attending the meeting, I think that security is paramount in that regard. Also, I think that it needs to be interactive in the sense that it may allow not only for coffee breaks as the ones as the one we just had here in this event today, but also to exchange with other colleagues. So I have seen that sometimes you can have private chats. I think that that's one of the tools or sub tools that we need to make sure that we have access to. And I think the third one will be that it needs to provide a customized model for diplomats. We have been using tools that are already on the market. So sometimes it's difficult, for instance, to interpreters to participate. At the moment, I only know of one platform that allows for interpretation, which for multilateralism and multilingualism is very important. So these nuances of diplomatic practice needs to be taken into consideration in any decided platform. But I may also want to add that, as Katharina was pointing out earlier, we diplomats need to be up to the task, and we need to learn new skills, soft skills and digital skills to be able also to operate these new environments. And I think that we have been learning as we go. Some are more able than others, but this is part of the question as well for a new tool. And thank you for the question.
Thanks a lot for that, and it's interesting to see the wish list, especially the last point I think you made on the nuances for diplomats. I think that is what would make the difference, because there are so many platforms out there, and we have been surveying them. So there is such a wide range of platforms and applications, but a tool that is customizable for the nuances of diplomacy, I think that is truly essential. And I think before I just have a couple of other questions, but before I ask them, we have a comment from Adama Horsey. Thank you, Adama, for your question. And Maricela, I'll just read it out. So Adam is asking, do you believe foreign governments or international regulations will enable interventions for adequate digital inclusion in Africa? It is a question specific for Africa. So I think, Adam, I'll take the liberty to also pose the question to Moctar, who is based in Africa. But Maricela, do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, thank you for this question and for the participation from Africa. It's really exciting. I think that we share many of the same challenges. I think that, of course, some of the discussions that are taking place right now in the United Nations are dealing with open internet, digital governance, and all these different aspects of connectivity. I do believe that countries have an interest in maintaining meaningful connectivity for all, including for Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean, and other countries from the global south. And this is something that, of course, civil society organizations, but also regular citizens will need to continue advocating for. So we also, as diplomats, have this valuable input from people that are experiences on the ground challenges. And I think that this is one of the ingredients that will have to be considered as we design a new tool, especially adequate for the United Nations system.
Thanks for that, and I think it replies very well to Adama's question. We do have another question from Julia Purcell from Wilton Park. Hello, Julia, so you must be joining us from London. And the question goes like this: how far are diplomats restricted, or maybe allowed, Julia, let's say affected by the government's advice on the use of different platforms? So what Julia is asking is whether the diplomats are free or otherwise to choose platforms of their choice. And Julia gives the example of Zoom, where some governments, in fact, did advise against the use of Zoom due to security considerations. And I think we saw this particularly in the beginning of COVID, when Zoom had quite a few security flaws, which it did address to a very large extent. So Maricela, how free are you to use the platforms of your choice?
Well, thank you so much. I think this, to Julia, this is a very timely question. I don't want to make publicity to any of the available platforms, but I have to tell you that some governments do have restrictions in the use of platforms. In the case of Costa Rica, we have been instructed to try to use more secure platforms. And as I said, I don't want to name one over the other. But yeah, there are differences in terms of the accessibility, the recurring capabilities, the possibility to check for the right credentials as you join any meeting. So yes, there are instructions in particular to try to avoid for formal meetings certain platforms and to favor others. And for informal exchanges, then any platform is okay. But this is truly something that is affecting our practice, because as I said, there are very limited options in the market right now. And I would say none of them is perfect for our business, but we have to try to adjust and to see what works best. Thank you.
Exactly. And in fact, I think the practice that Costa Rica has adopted is in fact a practice that even other countries have adopted. Namely, they have internal policies as to which platforms diplomats can use in their official capacity. Obviously, for personal reasons, we are all more or less free to use the platforms that we like. We do have another question from the Embassy of Bolivia in Brussels. So joining us from Brussels, I'm missing the name, but it's fine just the same. I'll ask this question, Maricela, and then I think we'll ask Asha to join us. Thank you very much. It's Ambassador Muñoz Reyes from Bolivia. Welcome, Ambassador. So Ambassador Claudia is asking, which platforms would be recommended by the UN or EU or other multilateral organizations to use in developing countries with poor bandwidth and lack of telecommunication networks and connectivity for the internet? Going back to what Maricela just said, namely not to advertise for different platforms, I wonder, Maricela, whether you're at liberty to maybe say which maybe 3 or 4 platforms which are good for limited bandwidth, but if not, Claudia, I take the liberty of writing back to you, because we do have our survey and we do look at a range of platforms and we sort of grade them between ease or advanced difficulty of use, and also bandwidth and other security issues. So we have quite an in-depth review of platforms. And Ambassador, I do invite you to stay on until the end of track 3, because at the end I'll be talking also about the help desk, and this is maybe something that the help desk can also assist you with. So the advice that you're asking is really and truly what the help desk is there for. Maricela, all right, and the ambassador is saying perfect, many thanks. So Maricela, I don't know whether you'd like to add to that.
Yes, if I may, thank you,
Sure.
Stephanie. I think that what you responded is right on target, and thank you to Ambassador Muñoz from Bolivia for this very practical question. What I can add is that in the United Nations system, what we have been using so far officially is Interprefy, and it has been okay with some technical glitches, but it has been working for the for the WHO Assembly, for a group of governmental experts. We're going to use it for the Convention on Biological and Toxic Weapons. So I think the Human Rights Council have used it as well. This is what we have been using formally, but informally, we also have had access to, for instance, Teams, WebEx, Zoom. And I believe that sometimes it depends on the day. I cannot tell you that one is the winner, but sometimes we also play with the video, and with the audio to see if switching one off helps us in communicating better. But I think that these other commercial tools have also played a role, especially as I tell you, sharing my own experience here in Geneva. So yes, we have a very limited menu, I would say. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks so much, Maricela, for that. And I'm looking at the time, and we soon have to stop for a coffee break. But before that, Maricela, I thank you so much for joining us for this track, and I hope you will stay with us until the end of the track 3, hopefully until the end of the event. Meanwhile, Asha. Hello, I think it's early morning for you in New York, so a pleasure to have you with us. And Asha, please feel free to reflect on the challenges that Ms. Muñoz has just described, but also I'd like to ask you, because since you're representing the small island country of St. Kitts in New York, what specific challenges have diplomats from small countries been facing, and what kind of support or assistance is required, perhaps from regional groupings even, to assist small states in major hubs like New York? So that's the question for you. And I'll open a bracket. The questions that have just come in from Adama, from Ambassador Muñoz, and from Aid Maricela, I think I'll direct them to Asha. So Asha, floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie, Excellencies, colleagues. Of course, a warm greetings to you and the other panelists, and to those that have gathered in Geneva, and those that have joined us virtually from all over the world. At the outset, I would like to thank my extended family, the DiploFoundation, for the opportunity to participate in this timely and important research project. I think for me, the exercise was enlightening, even to reflect on the impact of COVID-19 on multilateral diplomacy, but particularly for small island developing states and our engagement in the multilateral affair. As a matter of fact, Stephanie, I would wish to congratulate the lead author and researcher, Dr. Katharina Horn, who I had the pleasure of meeting and working with some years ago during the capacity development in multilateral diplomacy for Caribbean States program. And we pay our respects to the Finnish Foreign Ministry and all the other stakeholders that commissioned the report. Before answering the question, Stephanie, I think I have to reflect on a few issues. In my view, the report has managed to capture very well the essence of the multiplicity of challenges we're all facing across the world, but particularly in multilateral hubs, where there are common but differentiated circumstances. And it addresses very comprehensively the questions that have been looming in our minds as diplomats and government officials, while paying homage to the opportunities that the pandemic has presented. And the reality is that the COVID-19 pandemic has rocked every single aspect of our lives, personal and professional. And I have no doubt that the impact of this pandemic will be felt for years to come. It has ushered in an era of diplomacy that is not entirely new, but was not necessarily common. And last year, when we concluded our program of work of the 74th session at the United Nations in New York, we had no idea that the 75th session would be convened through our videos and on our screens. We had no idea that our presidents and prime ministers would not join us in New York for the high-level week. We had no idea that we would not be able to assist our ambassadors in the behind-the-scene logistics of delivering a statement at the plenary sessions of our committee's work. And most impactfully, we had no idea that we would not be able to sit amongst our colleagues and negotiate fundamental resolutions as we're used to. And I confess, I miss the ability to conduct the corridor diplomacy, to share coffee or a snack and really get into the discussion on a possible way out to achieve consensus on very sensitive issues. And the fact remains, it is not the same. It is not the same to have these tense negotiations virtually. And I am still not quite comfortable with the possible alternative to the corridor diplomacy, which is to send a message or a quick call. In that way, I am not able to employ my charm to strike off to use my charm, sorry, to strike a compromise. It's simply not the same. However, I think we have seen the opportunities manifested as a result of the pandemic. For smaller missions with limited capacity or ability to participate in all aspects of the work of the UN is simply difficult to achieve. So while I am no longer physically running from room to room, my finger is now taking me from room to room. Although I will pause and admit it is critical to ensure that we are cautious to not settle into a sedentary lifestyle. We know that this is one of the contributing factors of non-communicable diseases, and we must remain committed to the prevention and control of NCDs. At the same time, Stephanie, I know that some can suggest, well, you know, the DiploFoundation has been doing this for so long, so the rest of us in the multilateral, the rest of us, the missions in the multilateral setting, we're just catching up. But to that I say, you know, it is better late than never. And the pandemic has forced us to learn different modalities and benefit from them in ways which we were previously stubborn to. We now know that we can all engage all of our missions around the world on one conference call. Well, yes, of course, with some adjustments from our colleagues in different time zones. Even in our ministry, we have seen a substantial adjustment led by our permanent secretary, who has made exceptional use of the virtual way of life. And so essentially, we have seen how intimately connected we can truly be, which can bolster inter and interministerial coordination at all levels and really allow us to champion a whole of government approach and allow us to vigorously pursue our foreign policy agenda in a holistic and efficient way. And so this is how we have been responding to the pandemic, with the hope of maintaining some level of optimism. And I think the $1,000,000 question is what next? I don't think we will be forever relegated to our screens, but I suspect that our hybrid modalities of conducting meetings in a multilateral setting will be around for a while. You know, with rapid technological developments, the opportunities will be endless. In fact, my presence here with you today is a manifestation of the new opportunities that have been conceived. And so, you know, I leave my brief remarks with the message that we have not been defeated. We have seen over the last few months the true meaning of global solidarity. And so once again, you know, with these brief remarks, I congratulate the DiploFoundation on an excellent report. I wish everyone an enjoyable reading. And to answer now your question, Stephanie, you know, as I said, we have common but differentiated circumstances, and limited capacity has been a feature of small states interaction in multilateralism. I think the new digital diplomacy has highlighted the digital divide, as many others would have said. Some of our challenges include access to information and communication technologies, and really having the infrastructure in our capital that can accommodate efficient and effective connectivity to allow us to continue our work in the way that we have been. Yes, hello to you, sir.
It's okay, Asha. I think it's Moctar.
This is Moctar. Have you started already?
Yes, Moctar, you can join us. Asha is replying to a question, so you can follow. Yeah. Asha, the floor is yours.
Yes, I think I wrapped it up. You know, just to indicate that the challenges again, I would summarize. You know, have to do with our lack of internet infrastructure and access to information and communication technology that can maintain our work. You know, in person, if we show up to a room, we're there. You know, and we do not necessarily have to worry about being connected because the in-person presence already dispenses with that challenge. Of course, we have the idea that we can now save on travel costs for or government representatives from capital, and so there is a sort of a balance, an offset of challenges, and of course, there is no perfect perfect possibility. There's no perfect circumstances, and I think we're trying our best to adapt to the new way of life, and we are finding our footing, but we are getting there. We're getting there for sure, Stephanie. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Asha, for your comments. I particularly like the comment you made about the health aspect, because it's true. So many of us are now having a sedentary lifestyle, and that we're not looking at the health effects maybe at the moment, because we're all worrying about the COVID, but it's something that we need to be careful about also. You also mentioned, Asha, a point about the informal conversations and not being able to take the corridor discussions online. And I think this ties into the question from Aid. Aid is asking, how possible is it, the questions are linked in fact, how possible is it to move both the corridor discussions, so the informality of the discussions, to an online meeting platform, for instance, and how possible is it, or how comfortable, I would say, are you to have more, let's say, discreet, more confidential conversations online? So what's your experience there?
Yes, Stephanie. You know, this is a very tricky question for us as diplomats, and even this is a manifestation of how tricky it is. I think it has to do with trust, how well we trust our colleagues. You know, if you're standing in the corridor, and even in my mind, I'm having reflections about standing in the corridor of the General Assembly Hall in New York, and being able to be pulled aside, or to pull aside one of my colleagues and say very frankly, hey, you know, this paragraph in, you know, this Rev 1, it's just not working for us, and here are the reasons. You know, if we do not have that level of trust with colleagues, the virtual platform becomes a bit scary, because of course you have to be worried about issues of recording, you know, and if this, and to what way would your colleague maintain that level of confidentiality, you know? So these are just the very inherent issues that we have, you know, when we discuss moving that corridor diplomacy or the alternative. And I think I mentioned it in my remarks. I am not, from a personal standpoint, I am not necessarily comfortable as yet with reaching out, you know, and elaborating on some of those issues, sensitive issues, via WhatsApp or via phone call. I'll share quickly an experience I had just last week in the negotiations of one of our resolutions in the third committee. And based on my intervention, my colleague from another country reached out, and she decided to call me. And of course, I'm home, I'm in a comfortable setting. And so I'm, you know, just talking without realizing in that space that, you know, my voice was perhaps being raised a bit. I'm not in the GA hall, I'm in a comfortable setting. And she actually was a bit shocked. You know, I said, no, you know, we are having a frank exchange, forgive me, you know, just woke up. And so these are the very intricate features of diplomacy, which you would not necessarily have incorporated in a report, but it's a reality for us. And so that's where we are. I am still working. I mean, it's a new life for us. I'm still trying to find my footing with that trust, but I'll be honest, it's not necessarily there as yet.
You make very good points, Asha, because sometimes we look at security just from the point of view of our conversations leaking, or a breach of the someone recording the conversations. So we sometimes look at the confidentiality just from that very narrow security point of view. But what you're saying when it comes to the lack of nonverbal cues, that's so important, because that also impacts the level of, that's also the quality of the confidential information, or of those exchanges or lobbying or negotiations. So very good point there. Colleagues, we have an option to continue with our discussion, which is extremely lively, and I think we're having a good discussion, or to stop for a coffee break. And I think I'll use the moderator's hat to say let's continue, and then we'll stop for a coffee break right before we move on to plenary. And I think I hope you all agree. So So, Asha, let me just go through the chat again, and perhaps Mina can assist me if there are any other questions for Asha specifically.
No questions from Asha, but I think that Miss Ambassador from Bolivia would like to pose a question, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, if
Of
I
course.
may,
Hello.
can you hear me well? It's okay?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, please.
Well, thank you. Thank you to all. I think this is such a great and interesting session, and I really appreciate all your comments. Actually, it's not a question. It's just a comment maybe that it will be possible, that I think it's very positive in the past, I would say 6 months of having this, and not only in terms of diplomacy, but in terms of learning best practices and actually lessons learned from all this global pandemic in the world, is the possibility to have access to different range of webinars like this. And I think that, for example, in a day, which we will have in March, April, May, even in June, I would have like 5 to webinars in a day from different perspectives, from different parts of the world. And I think that definitely marks a big opportunity. So that's why my question was about the appropriate platforms, and of course in developing countries like my country, like Bolivia, where we don't have a telecommunications network, or we don't have the infrastructure, it's very difficult for other diplomats to have access to. Like me being in Brussels and having all this diversity of, for me, on the opposite, it was a great opportunity to have this, the access to and the webinars. So I just wanted to comment that.
Thank you for the excellent comment, and this I think Moctar will also reflect on that, because infrastructure is one of the issues that Moctar, even at the beginning of this conference, pointed to, having different connections, having different, let's say, plan B, plan C to switch to. Asha, do you have any reflections on that?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned before, it's a new time for us. We are still in that, I mean, it's been a few months, but we're still in that shock factor where we're trying to adjust, and we're trying to figure out what works best for our ministries. And there is an incorporation of so many different elements, separate and apart from the apps, the virtual apps that we have available in an open format. We still just have to figure out what exactly are we going to do. How do we then decide which meetings merit in-person presence and which meetings should be done virtually? I saw a meme or a meme the other day. It was a very funny meme that was circulating in our environs, at least, which said, this could have been done in a webinar. When this meeting could be done in a webinar. And so you have that element of now deciding. It's a difficult question, because how do you then tell government officials, hey, we would love to have you, but I don't think your presence is merited for this topic, and then you will have perhaps the proliferation of different interest groups trying to decide, I think a hierarchy would be created. And this is coming from a practical standpoint. How do we decide which topics merit that in-person presence? And if it is that the in-person presence suggests that there is more, the topic is more important, right? And so these are the questions that we are still feeling out. I don't think we would be able to achieve any consensus on whether the hybrid model is going to force us to create a hierarchy of modalities of meetings. I think discussions like these actually help us to figure out what our colleagues are thinking, and perhaps bring us closer to answering these questions. But for now, it's a difficult question to answer for me, and I would imagine it would be difficult for all of us while we are still in adjustment mode.
That I agree with you, and also there was an element in common between Claudia and Maricela's comment regarding the let's say opportunities or even challenges. So it depends on how you look at them. For first of all, the fact that so many meetings are accessible because they are virtual. So we overcome the problem of the funds necessary to travel, for instance, for a meeting. So all the meetings are there, and it is very possible to join literally with the click of a button. But at the same time, as Maricela was saying, tapping into the experts back at home with regards to, for instance, the time difference, that is an issue. So it's there are pros and cons to both opportunities and challenges. So it's we can't really say online, you know, it's the way to go. It's definitely the solution. Neither can we say that face-to-face is the solution. So let's look forward to post-COVID-19. It is for this reason that we think that the hybrid way of having meetings, of conducting diplomacy, is probably it will be around even post-COVID. And on that note, so thank you, Asha, for your interventions. And please stay with us if you do have the time. And I'll now give the floor to Moctar. Moctar, are you with us?
Yes, I am. If
Very
you do
good,
hear me.
Moctar. Yes, we do hear you. So, Moctar, thank you for joining us. You're from the African Union Commission, and as we have seen in journals, on the news, it seems that African states have not been as bettered by COVID-19 as other regions, most notably in Europe and the US, especially at the moment, with special mention for Europe, because we're in the second wave. Does this mean that diplomats in Africa are not experiencing the same challenges in the diplomatic practice not challenges, the changes in diplomatic practice as other regions? So once we tackle that, there are a few questions which I'd like to direct you regarding infrastructure. But I'll let you share your thoughts on this.
Okay, with regard to the effect of COVID-19, in fact, despite the fact that, thanks God, we don't have that level of infection that we see around the world, and we are very pleased with that, although we will feel sorry for everybody else. But nevertheless, we are actually reacting as everybody else, as if we really have been affected. So as I was saying, for the first time, we have had the Executive Council meeting, which is actually the Council of Ministers of all Ministers of Foreign Affairs from Africa, taking place online. And most of the what we call the PRC meetings now are all of them online. At the beginning, it was kind of, most of the people were very skeptical about it, that it will work. But then little by little, we get used to it. And I'm glad to say that at a point that I am thinking that probably Africans will be really adapting this way of conducting their businesses more and more. And I just give you two examples. 5 years ago, I have requested for some people to work remotely from their offices in different places in Africa. And it was very welcomed very badly, negatively, in the sense, oh, that cannot be possible. And today, almost everybody is working remotely. Now, the challenges are two. One is the connectivity from home. Even though there is connectivity, you know, plenty of capacity, what we say, plenty of possibility to access, most of our people are not able to get that connectivity from at their homes. And if they get that connectivity, decent connectivity that allow them really to participate, is extremely expensive. And most of the time, the state and the employee don't take care of that. The second is the issue of energy, which is actually extremely unstable. And it comes and goes and without further explanation. So this is why I have linked the what we call the access to business continuity infrastructure, linked the ICT connectivity with the energy connectivity. Now, when we go through that step, and which is actually, I am very positive that it could happen, because operators are now seeing business coming into connectivity from homes. More people are now staying home. Netflix is becoming very popular. The other platforms for entertainment are becoming very popular. The kids are not going anymore outside. Then you see the hunger for connectivity, and the operators now see more business there. The other problem that will be coming after that is the resilience, the resilience of their networks in terms of security, in terms of really being able to protect access from their homes to the office infrastructure, to make sure that a business is conducted safely. So all those parameters are issues that has to be addressed quickly and swiftly, in order for Africans to be really able to participate in the multilateral diplomacy. And as I was saying, it's there is a negative side of it, and there is a positive side of it. The positive side is now we have more experts capable of contributing to the discussion and the debate. There is no, we cannot say, no, we need 10 experts now to travel to New York, but we cannot, have all the people traveling, so we'll send 1 or 2. And then you find out 1 or 2 diplomats going to a very huge meeting, surrounded by 25 experts from the other side for negotiation. And how do you see efficiency there? Often happen to me that because of the, how can I say, budget travel restrictions, if I may say, I have found myself meeting a delegation of 25 people, negotiating on a very high topic, and I am alone. And I don't have backup home. So with this connectivity, I will be able probably to get, a backup from home to really support me time to time in the delegation, to support my delegation in terms of really providing us more expertise. So the future is hybrid, but that hybrid has to make sure that it is safe and efficient in terms of infrastructure providing point of view. So that's my first thought, and will be glad to answer to any questions.
Thank you, Moctar, for your intervention there. Extremely good point regarding the uneven numbers in delegations, and maybe the fact that we're moving more and more to online ways of interacting, maybe that by itself will be, let's say, the raison d'être behind everything moving online.
If I may
Kabiru, just
please.
one moment, Kabiru. Maybe this would be let's say, even the impetus, the whole COVID situation, the impetus for there being a stronger push to improve the connectivity and the internet access. We'll give the floor to Kabiru, and then there are questions in the chat which I'll read out, Moctar. So Kabiru, tell us your questions, please.
I think when Mukutaro was talking about the problem that we Africans are going to face regarding this e-diplomacy generally, I think, yes, Mukutaro said that we have problem of infrastructure, especially regarding the connectivity. And then secondly, generally in Africa, apart from that, we have this problem, like when we want to appoint our diplomats, we don't actually appoint experts. I'm talking about various countries in Africa. We compensate those who, for example, supported governments in winning election. So most of them, they don't have expertise in dealing with so many issues when it comes to negotiation and other things. So it really affects diplomacy in Africa generally. And then if you're talking about the future is hybrid or is digital, I think in Africa, the future is hybrid, we believe, but we have a long way to go for us to be able to make diplomacy hybrid. For now, if we want to be carried along, I think it should be normal, traditional way of conducting diplomacy. For example, now I spend a lot of money buying data to be able to access this meeting because it is maybe important to me in particular. A lot of people, they want to join the meeting, but they don't have the fund or the capacity to be able to buy mobile data that will allow them to access it. For example, I'm living in Nigeria, in Kano State, in a local environment where a lot of people, I mean, we even have problem with making calls, talk less of joining webinar and other online issues. Thank you, that's my comment.
Thanks, Kabir, for that. You mentioned very good points, and I'm sure that a lot of colleagues share these concerns and these frustrations regarding the connectivity itself. And as Moctar was saying, even the issue of energy, which a lot of people just take them for granted. Moctar, any reaction to Kabir's comment?
Yes, indeed. No, first of all, I need to say something very important. Conducting business the way we were conducting business or diplomacy or anything we have to do the old way is not an option for Africa anymore. We need to really rethink the way we are doing things in terms of addressing the issue of diplomacy, education, health, and a lot of things. And thanks to God, the information and communication technology, the digital revolution is actually providing us the greatest opportunity to really catch up with the rest of the world, because we are all starting together now. The digital revolution is coming to the developed world as to the developing world at the same time, and it's all about us seizing the opportunity and to leapfrog and be equal in terms of connectivity. Yes, if we still address the issue of infrastructure and the connectivity the same way. For instance, for Kabiru, why does he has to struggle to buy data while the government could have bought it for him? For instance, the mindset is I will have to provide to any key person, at least the key person, any civil servant, any diplomat, anybody who is key in anything, I have to provide him with the full connectivity to be able to work from everywhere, anywhere, efficiently, and this is the way you have to think differently. Now, the appointing the experts based on partiality, this is also happening actually everywhere. We need also to change that mindset. If we don't look for efficiency to appoint the right people, then we are harming ourselves. It's I'm appointing X and Y to go to New York to discuss that because they are my relatives or they have voted for me or are from my village or from my family's own laws. That is not an option. Of course, it's not objective, but appointing the right man or the right woman to the right to the right assignment, that is something that everybody has to think about. We have to think nation. We have to think that it's not anymore an issue of ethnicity, tribalism, compromission, friends, or whatever. It's about looking at the whole nation as a nation and look at the interests of nation for efficiency. Now, if we still with that mindset, of course, no matter what we do, even we provide the best infrastructure, the best connectivity, if that mindset is not there, if the leadership is not there, if the digital thinking is not there, nothing will move, no matter what we do. Over to you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Moctar. Very important points, and probably have already replied to the two questions that we have in the chat from Modu and from the Bolivian ambassador. I'll ask them obviously just the same. So the first question is: we know that infrastructure is an issue. There is no doubt about that. The question is, how does the lack of capacity, is the lack of capacity as big an issue as infrastructure? So how do you see that? And the second question relates to mobile technology. And we know that Africa is a very good example of using mobile technology for internet access. So how is the mobile technology helping in overcoming the problem of internet access and maybe of infrastructure?
To me, or is it to me again, right?
Yes,
yes.
Moctar, please.
Okay. Yeah. Now, first of all, as I said, why the mobile people have tendency to forget why the mobile technology has been really quickly adopted by the African. It's simply because there was no terrestrial infrastructure. there was no urban plans and very well, and hence the mobile was easy to deploy for people who are not surrounded by the infrastructure. But if you have seen in Europe or in a developed country, they had cable to home, they had an old phones, the penetration, the rate of telephone penetration before the mobile was, in Africa, it was around 5%, while it was 90% around in some of the developing countries. So we catch up with the mobile. The mobile comes in and we solve that issue of infrastructure in general. But the issue here is not only, the mobile is the greatest opportunity, but it's not the only way to solve our problems. The saturation is coming. The frequencies are not available anymore. The new technologies are being, how can I say, slowed down because of this trade war between the different blocks. And the investments on the infrastructure, mobile infrastructure, is not state driven, is a private sector driven and foreign private sector driven. People who are there are looking, the foreign investors are more interested on the return on investment rather on the social development of the country, which is actually fair enough. So the government need to step in really and start pushing for more expansion, for more coverage, for more efficient coverage. Because if we don't have that infrastructure that will allow us to really to benefit from, take from the benefit of the digital transformation, we will be again remain dominated, if I may say, or backward forever. Remind you that we have missed the industrial revolution, we end up colonized. We miss the digital revolution, will end up dominated forever. Specifically, when the digital revolution is more dangerous than colonization, in the sense that colonization, some people who come to want something and they may go. But when the technology comes in and take your data and profiling you and be able to modify anything on you, you will end up, dominated, because I can anticipate anything. So the issue of cyberspace, the behavior on cyberspace, the trust are extremely important here. Over to you.
Thanks, Moctar. And in fact, this really replies very well to Madhu's question, in that the skills, the knowledge of the policy implications around data, around all these policy decisions, that's so important, especially among the policy makers. What you also said about the need for the government to step in and to focus on expansion and coverage, that's also extremely, extremely important. And we hope that the COVID-19 situation provides the necessary impetus for the governments, not just in Africa, but across small and developing countries in general, to really step up their efforts in this, because otherwise what we will see is a wider digital gap rather than a narrower one. I'll just stop there on the topic of small and developing countries, as in your experiences. So thank you, Moctar, a lot for your interventions. We have a few minutes left. We're meant to be stopping for coffee break before the plenary resumes at 4:15. So I'll very briefly talk about the help desk. I won't repeat what I said in the beginning, mainly what the aim of the help desk is, apart from just saying that the help desk is there to help countries and organizations transition from off-site, so from on-site, so from face-to-face to online and hybrid. We're helping the countries and organizations really answer the questions that they have. We provide advice to help them really have the organize the virtual meetings and events. What I'll very briefly describe is our experience of running this help desk. So the help desk was we had a soft launch sometime before summer, so that's June, July. we received a lot of requests for advice from various actors, including in small and developing countries, who are happy to assist with our advice, and in some specific cases with even hands-on support. And our experiences have been, if I can summarize them, they have been three. The first is that a lot of the requests for advice that we received show us that the difficulties in knowing how to set up, how to organize, how to run an effective and efficient meeting are quite common. So you get the same questions like, what platform do I use? How do I moderate, etc.? Which means that those our colleagues here, or even your contacts, and I'll come to this in a little bit, whatever people think that the issues might be, only them might be facing these issues, it's not the case. Basically, no one is alone in this, because the issues are common, and a lot of people are in the same boat on this, which leads me to my second point, in that unfortunately the people who need the help the most are the ones whom are more difficult to reach. And this also ties to the question of the connectivity and to internet access. Obviously, they cannot organize online gatherings if their access and if they don't have stable or reliable internet access, or if they have none at all. With unstable internet access, you can manage more or less, but with no access at all, that becomes a problem. But at least for those actors who can rely on some form of internet access, we do need to reach out to them even more, to explain to them and to help them and to build the capacity on how to meet and how to share how to make their voices heard in the virtual world. And the third point is that there is still a lot of uncertainty. Is COVID-19 going away anytime soon? Is it staying? Second wave? Some people are talking about the third wave. So there's still a lot of uncertainty there. And it makes planning online meetings trickier, because even if you purchase a license, you have to think, oh, will I be still using this maybe a little bit expensive license in 2 years, 2 years time, especially if you're buying multi-years. It's just one of the issues there. So there's a lot of uncertainty. What we can recommend is, based on our experience, is let's make the best today with the available technology that we have. There are a lot of options out there. All right, not the perfect solution, as Maricela was saying at the beginning, but there is available technology. So supplementing even the face-to-face meetings where that is possible, there are ways and means of how to meet online, how to make the best use of the technology today. So do reach out to the help desk. It's very easy to reach out, and please help us share also the message if we can make this kind request for you. Accessing the help desk is very easy. So you just visit the website diplomacy.edu/conftech. Maybe Mina can type the URL there, and you have on the website, you have a live chat that you can literally speak to one of our colleagues. So you're seeing me, but in reality, there is a whole team. And a shout out here to my colleague, Arvin Kamberi, who is co-leading the help desk and who spends a lot of time advising countries and organizations on event-related issues. So the live chat is one of the ways to contact us. And the second way is just drop us an email. So just use the email conftech@diplomacy.edu. Just let us know how we can help you, and we will. And we can do this thanks to the support that we get from the government of Finland, government of Switzerland, and Diplo support coming, the operational support coming to Diplo from the Ford Foundation. So we thank our partners, and looking into the future, we are here to continue helping. So we hope to have even the opportunity and the support from our partners to keep doing this work. That was a very brief and very fast overview of the experience that we had on the help desk. I don't know if there are any questions here. If there are, just drop them, and if there is no time to tackle them, I can reach out to you by email, or else you can just ask the questions to conftech@diplomacy.edu, and we'll be happy to reply back. But I think, and Mina, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it is time to stop for a few minutes, because the plenary starts in 5 minutes. Is that correct, Mina?
Exactly, yes, in 5 minutes, and I will leave you the link in the chat to go back to the main room where we will have the wrap-up session. There is also a passcode that you use for this room and for the plenary room, so you can just click there, and it will take you directly to the main.
The same password we had.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, maybe Mina, you can type it here also. Exactly, so the passcode is there. And Mina, if you can write the Conftech's email in the chat, conftech@diplomacy.edu.
So it is the link. We invite you to join the wrap-up session.
Exactly. So at this point, I warmly thank you all for joining. A special thanks to Maricela, Asha, and Moctar for sharing your experiences, which I am sure that the colleagues in the room have found very interesting and important to know. So the fact that we're all in the same boat is much more evident, even despite the specificities of the hubs where we're in and the different countries we're based in. So once again, thank you all for your interventions, and thank you for our participants here for asking questions, interacting, and being with us. So see you in a few minutes back in plenary. 3 minutes time to have coffee.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Stephanie. Take care, everyone.
You too. Stay safe.